It's now live, Bento Bureau.
Itadakimasu!
Hello and welcome to Bento Bureau. My name is Bastian Hart and I'm going to be the host for today. Bento Bureau is all about politics and education. This is our new channel and I would like to open this up for our group members here who are sitting around me.
Unfortunately, what my host here, Bastian, failed to mention is that we focus on Japan-centric political issues and education, as well as the society in general, because who isn't interested in Japanese society, right? Anyway, let's kick it off. I'll introduce myself. My name is Buzz. I'm from the Middle East. I've been living in Japan for 2 years. And we're all here studying international relations, to be exact. Exactly. So we have, I'd say a decent amount of knowledge on international relations or politics in general. While we're still students, I think that we'd be able to provide an interesting perspective on Japanese issues in general, So I'll pass it on to my friend Ichi here.
Hi everyone, my name is Ichi, which means one in Japanese, but I am actually from Bangkok, the capital city of Thailand. I was originally came here to Japan on a scholarship to study medicine. But midway through, I found out that I am more interested in politics and social science. So I changed my major and came to TIU. So yeah, just like most of us here, I am a second-year student. And I am really excited to be working in this project.
Just to throw in, what is TIU actually standing for?
TIU stands for Tokyo International University.
Thanks, man. Good to
All right, and I guess I'll introduce myself. My name is Jess Hartman. I'm half American, half Japanese. I've been living in Japan for about 3 years. I'm a third-year student in TIU, and my major is international relations. What do I say about myself? I live with my Japanese family right now, and for a person who's been living in a Western society, it's still a culture shock to this day.
You were living in Guam, right?
I was living in Guam from age 5 to age 18, and then I moved here. No regrets.
No regrets. Well, thank you guys for introducing yourselves. I guess I'm left, so my name is Bastian Hart, as I said. I'm also an international relations student. I'm a second semester student. I've been living now in Japan for around 3 years. I've done a working holiday in Fukuoka before for 10 months. While I was doing that, I worked part-time in a Chinese restaurant as a waiter, as well as in an English cafe. Originally, I'm from Germany, so probably you hear my accent a little bit out. But yeah, I've been in London before in a language school, so I got my English kind of done. Right now, well, I'm working here as a student staff in the English Plaza. English Plaza is a place where you basically speak English. But that doesn't matter right now, right?
That's a good job.
It's a good job, isn't it?
It must be very fulfilling. Huh?
It's very fulfilling, yeah.
Not as fulfilling as that convenience store one.
Yeah, so what? I work in a convenience store. It's a good place to practice Japanese and understand that working in the service industry is a quite miserable occupation if you want to be there for the rest of your life. That's why I only work part-time.
Why is it miserable?
Well, you have to deal with all these annoying customers at night. You have to basically be polite to them, even though they're like the rudest bunch of people I've ever met. And even though they reek of alcohol or cigarettes, you still have to be polite to them.
I think we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Before we get into the perils of convenience store business, how about we tell the audience a little bit more about why a bunch of filthy foreigners like us
we are not filthy.
Spending our time studying in Japan.
I'm half a filthy foreigner, just to let you all know.
Well, 50-50, huh?
So how about we start?
Sure.
We all have a story. What makes a foreigner from the Middle East or from Thailand, Guam, Germany, what makes us come to Japan of all places?
Well, why don't you go ahead, Buzz? Tell us a little bit more about it. Why did you come to Japan?
Well, quite frankly, I think it was. I've always been interested in Japan since I was a child. Starting from in general, growing up with the cartoons or games. Besides that, it's just I've always been interested in Japan's history and culture just by learning about it in class or watching a documentary on it or anything. But I never really considered living here as a serious prospect. Sorry about that, guys. That's the school bell we're listening to right now. What a great way to start the first episode.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Don't
so
skip class.
I'll go on. So I didn't really consider living here seriously until I came and visited with my uncle for the first time in around 3 to 4 years ago, and it was just coming. It was limited to Tokyo, my trip, but I was just mesmerized by just how different it is to any other place I've ever seen in my life. And once I only went there for around a week, and after that week, I was dead sure that I have to live here. This place is beautiful. It's the atmosphere is amazing. The people are so respectful.
How long have you lived here already?
Yeah, as I mentioned in my introduction, I've been here around 2 years. Studying. So, but as I said before, I've been here for around a week for a holiday before.
But you visited other countries, right?
I've been to quite my fair share of countries. I started in Europe. I was born in England. I grew up there for 10 years, and then I moved to the Middle East, specifically Qatar. I lived there and finished my high school there, and now I find myself in Japan. But I've visited quite a few countries in my life in terms of vacation with my family, mainly specific to the Middle East and Europe, probably. Not much Asia, which is what I kind of regret, and I would love to explore more of Asia sometime.
So in Asia, you just have been to Japan, or have you been to other places?
Asia, huh? Yeah, it's pretty much only been Japan, actually, now that I think about it. I would love to visit China and Korea sometime. I think that's the next stop. But first and foremost, I think I should explore more of Japan in the first place. I haven't actually been too many places in Japan. Japan is quite a vast country with so much to see and so much variety. So I've only been to the Kanto area in general.
Has your impression changed so far from Japan since you've been living here and you have interacted with Japanese people, foreign people? I guess for everybody had like a first impression, which we're all going to talk about, but how did it change maybe? Can you say that?
I would definitely say that it's changed a lot. And if I get too deep into the subject, we could be here talking about this subject itself all day, actually.
Ooh, this is going to be a long podcast.
And yeah, I mean, I came to Japan, as I said, with this idea of, total respect. And it's just amazing just seeing how the people, at least in terms of services and where you go to a restaurant or in the trains, everyone's so quiet and peaceful,
Right.
I really appreciated that aspect of Japan. It's something that I never experienced before. I always lived in pretty, noisy areas, filled with cars driving pretty fast or just general noise that you hear in a city or the suburbs. But in Japan, even when you're in Tokyo, a busy city, it's not as loud and obnoxious as you would think it would be. I've never been to somewhere like New York, but I would assume that by what I see in the movies, it is a pretty noisy place. I know you've been to New York, haven't you, Ichi?
Yes, I have been to New York.
What was it like there?
Well, I don't want to say too many negative things about New York here because many of our listeners might be from New York. But it is not as clean as Japan. I mean, people are a bit more lively over there, I would say. In Japan, people seem a bit more, not Japan exactly, but more like Tokyo area. Because when we talk about Japan, normally we have image of like salaryman dressed up in suit, walking around very quickly. But those are mostly like in the city area, like Tokyo.
Was that your image before you came to Japan?
That is definitely my own image, the image I have before I came to Japan. That Japan's probably is more. I thought it would be more of a homogeneous country, but since I have come here, I have seen a lot of variety of people.
Awkward.
I am looking over Long here. Long is our how would you call it?
Audio guy.
Audio guy.
And he's mentioned something about the problem with my microphone.
I think Ichi gets easily distracted. So Long, please try to keep your hands to yourself.
Yeah, don't touch Ichi. We touch him maybe.
So go on, Ichi.
Let's
tell
keep
us
it
more about your
PG-13, please.
yeah. Tell us more about your image of Japan before coming. Why'd you even come here?
I told you already because I got a scholarship. That's why I came here. I do love Japanese culture and Japanese games and manga, but I would not say that is like the main reason why I came here. Came here for the scholarship.
But you came here for the scholarship. Did you apply to any other universities which were outside of Japan, or did you just apply
Only
for
in Thailand,
universities?
actually.
Only in Thailand and
Well,
Japan.
I have not taken like SAT or TOEFL. Yeah, I just applied for the scholarship.
So you couldn't receive a scholarship for anywhere else, for example, or was Japan the most,
It is probably the most generous one.
yeah.
I see. That makes sense. But now you changed your major from medicine to politics. How did that come? And yeah, why did you change it all?
Yeah, in fact, you were attending Ryukyu Daigaku in Okinawa, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
So what led you to come to Saitama, Tokyo International University?
It's funny, isn't it? Tokyo International University, but it's actually in Saitama.
Let's not get into that before they ban us from recording this podcast. No, all jokes aside, Tokyo International University is a pretty decent place, if I do say so myself.
Well, let's not do promotion, but yeah,
Yeah, I'm happy with this university.
for sure. Me
Of
too.
course, like every other university, it has its problems, but more or less, I enjoy my time here.
Well, when we're already by you, why did you come to Japan? Well, you must have a completely different reason compared to us, because you are basically half. So can you tell a little bit more about your background story about that?
Well, I mean, when I was a kid, like from the age 5 to 11, I'd visit my grandparents' house in Niigata Prefecture like every summer vacation. I'd basically stay with them for like a month or two, and every time I visited, it was an amazing experience because, I mean, me as a kid who enjoyed video games and toys and like these cartoons, it was just really amazing for me to like just see all these like toy figures and things from the cartoons I used to love. And I used to always ask my grandparents to buy me these, and they love to spoil me, so they basically bought me whatever I wanted. And then when I came back to Guam, my parents kind of scolded me because they said I asked too much and I take advantage of my grandparents' kindness.
Is that how you managed to get a GameCube back in the day?
Yeah. I had to cry to my daddy to get it for me on my birthday. Yeah.
To your daddy.
Yeah. Anyway, but after the age 11 to 13, I kind of stopped because my family went through some financial problems, so we couldn't afford annual trips like that. Even during that time, I really felt like this kind of sadness because Japan is just like it's a country where I can just like get so excited just to over anything in this place. I mean, I love trains, for God's sake. I mean, when I was a kid, when I was in the regular commuter trains, I'd just like I'd face the window and go crazy.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Who doesn't? A typical.
Convenience.
What is your
dude.
favorite train?
Huh?
What is your favorite train?
Shinkansen.
Oh.
Bullet trains.
Shinkansen is
Yeah.
unmatched.
You like
Yeah,
it fast.
Yeah. Bullet trains are just amazing. It's objectively amazing. Anyway, yeah. And then when I turned 15, I visited annually again, and I realized that when I graduate high school, I don't want to stay in Guam for my my college university education. So I thought that I should come to Japan because my mom was already living here with my brother and sister. So I figured that if I move in with her, maybe my opportunities to find a job would increase. But unfortunately, my language skills were still not sufficient enough for me to get a full-time job. So I figured I should apply for a university before I become a sarariman.
Oh, so if you had decent, pretty fluent Japanese skills, you would say that you wouldn't have went to university?
Not necessarily. Maybe I would try to apply for a university in Japanese, maybe.
Oh.
That would have been a good idea for me. I mean, English is my native language, and I would figure that if I can take college courses in Japanese, that would really help with my language skills. But I'm basically illiterate in Japanese. I can't read kanji at all.
That's interesting.
Well, you can.
Well, like very basic kanji. Yeah.
Do a lot of people in Guam study in Guam for university, or do they go other places?
It depends. Usually, if they try to major in tourism, which is very popular in Guam.
Really?
Usually, they stick with Guam's university, the University of Guam, or if they try to study IT, they take courses in Guam Community College, and then they probably study in the mainland, which is the United States.
I know a lot of Japanese people tend to visit Guam.
Oh yeah, that's
So-
true. Yeah, during my time, there's not many places to kind of hang around in Guam. So me and my friends would usually go to basically the tourist hotspot city called Tumon. It's like, so there are a lot of Japanese people, a lot of tourists visiting. So sometimes like they would ask me to they'd ask me to get this Japanese girl's number for them, and 25% of the time I succeeded.
With the little Japanese skills, you know?
Yeah,
So-
just like demo bango oshiete kudasai.
you asked
Japanese-
for her number?
Yeah. Japanese girls are popular in Guam.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, why not?
Moving on, how about we go to our beloved loquacious host?
Yeah, let's call a host. Thank you for earlier, by the way, for rescuing my introduction.
No problem, buddy. I'm always there for you.
Flawed introduction. That's good to hear that I have my Qatarian buddy behind me.
I don't think you would say Qatarian, but let's say that.
Egyptian?
No.
No. Okay. Inside joke. Anyways, I was interested in anime and manga before I came here. Sounds weird because ever
Of
since
course
I
you
actually, of course I were. I was this filthy German guy who was such a nerd who just watched anime and manga the whole time.
How much anime would you watch in a week?
Before I came here, I've watched literally in my free time anime, like continuously. I haven't played games. I didn't go out with friends. I just stayed at home after school and watched anime. Sounds weird because ever since I haven't watched any kind of anime and manga or like read manga, and I'm not really interested in it at all anymore.
That's pretty funny considering how you come to Japan and then you stop watching anime.
Yeah,
Actually,
right.
it happened to me too. Like when I was in Guam, I used to watch anime a lot more than I do now. Actually, like the last time I watched anime was like maybe 2 weeks ago.
Yeah?
And it's because some friends recommended it to me, and I watched the first 5 episodes, and it was interesting, but then I just have no time to watch it anymore. I guess I'm just too busy, or maybe because I'm already living in the land of anime. There's no point in me trying to watch it. It's all around me now.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, I've been busy as well. I've been out with a lot of friends ever since I came here, especially during the working holiday. You know, you hang out with friends. That's what you do in your free time.
Yeah.
And it's just, since you're here in Japan, you want to experience the things you have seen, like going to temples and shrines. And it's also most of the time where you become an adult. Like, it's kind of that in that between. I mean, we're all young. I mean,
Exactly, yeah.
I'm
I've-
22, Jess is how
I'm
old?
20.
21?
I'm 20.
20 still, sorry.
Yeah.
Buzz is
20.
20 and
23.
Ichi's 23, so he's the oldest here. With me, did I say how old I am? 22, yeah, anyways. So it's kind of like in between this, from teenager to becoming an adult, and I think that's really a part of it, especially if you focus more on those things you want to study, like let it be international relations in our cases, or let it be business economics. whatsoever Japanese society, then you just lose the interest in anime and manga.
And I don't think it's like you lose interest. It's more just like you just don't have the time for it anymore.
Not the time, but other things become more interesting. So of course you focus on that. Like that's in my case personally, I would say. So I got more interested in other things.
Yeah, I mean, like when I was really into anime, I was like 15 and I didn't have a job. I was just going to high school. So like,
Exactly.
like what better to do than to just stay at home, watch anime?
How about you, Ichi? Do you still watch a lot of anime or read a lot of manga?
No, I no longer do that. I have too much homework and other stuff.
Yeah. You read a lot?
Hmm?
I mean, you read a lot of homework. It's quite intensive, isn't it? Our
Yeah.
classes, yeah.
Who's the most intensive professor you're taking right now?
There's
Or what's the name of the course?
I don't know. Yeah, all hard.
They're all difficult. Huh?
Nice.
But yeah, I became interested in shrines, temples, came here to Japan, wanted to learn the language, and now my impression of Japan was kind of the same as everybody else's impression. Everything was clean, the people were very polite, the shrines, the temples were beautiful, the scenery is just amazing, the food is great. I mean, so delicious, so tasty, and you can find it so cheap. But of course, my interests they change. So right now, the purpose of me staying in Japan is just the university, because I love the international atmosphere. I mean, we are all from different countries, which is great. And studying Japanese because I really want to get my Japanese done. I don't have an ultimate goal with that, but I would like to use it in my life, and maybe for work or, with talking to friends. Anything like that. And of course, I have a girlfriend who became just a Japanese right now, even though she's half. So I guess it's a good opportunity for me to study Japanese and, stay here in Japan.
You know, if you marry her, that means you can stay in Japan as long as you want. Yeah.
Visa!
Hell, you can marry me if you want.
I would marry you immediately.
Yeah.
Do you want to marry me?
Maybe when gay marriage becomes legal in my city.
See.
Yeah.
What is your city?
I live in Hiratsuka in the Kanagawa prefecture, which is quite far from here. Yeah. About 2 hours, I would say,
Wow,
by
that's
train.
far.
I think there's only like one city in Japan that allows gay marriage at this point.
It's Shibuya, Shinagawa ward. Yeah, I think.
Even if they allow it, is this even like legal to
I
marry?
think there are going to be some complications if they decide to move away from the Shibuya city. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 more cities. They're debating whether or not to legalize the marriage. I mean, that's some progress, I'd say. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've been talking about us. Let's see, do you have an opinion about why other people come to Japan? I mean, we are kind of unique because we're studying here, but other people who are just, tourists here, or they think about going to Japan for a longer time, let it be working holiday or via cultural visa or whatever. Do you have any opinions why they come to Japan? I mean, Ichi, for example, he went here because of the scholarship. Jess is half. Your boss was amazed by the scenery, so that's kind of like going more in that direction, I would say, of like this general idea of Japan having, a good image and being interested in all the things here. And kind of the same for me with anime and manga. I was just wondering, what do you think about other people who would come here to Japan? What's their interest? Why do they come to Japan?
Well, I think the first thing we should mention is that one person's reason can be exactly the same. Everyone comes here for different reasons, whether it be as general as being interested in the Japanese media or Japanese culture, to just having more financial stability studying here. Everyone's story is different.
Right.
Yeah. But throughout most of the foreign students that I've talked to, most of them would say that they're interested in living in Japan, understanding the society. And then I guess the second most common response I hear is basically they have a scholarship and it's cheaper if they study abroad in Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the average person who doesn't happen to be living in Japan,
Yeah.
well, the average person, when they think of Japan, I don't think the first thing that comes to their mind is foreigners living in Japan.
Probably
I mean,
not.
they probably just imagine a pretty Asian-dominated society, I would say. And that's definitely the case. I mean, what's the population in Japan right now? It's still quite an overwhelming majority of Japanese people.
Yeah,
Is this still
last
like-
time I checked, it's about maybe at least 2% of the population are
2%?
consist of foreigners. apparently.
Isn't it 1 in 60 people is just a foreigner or something? Wasn't there a statistic like that? I mean, I'm not.
I think the data that I looked at was around 2013 or something.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know.
Can't imagine.
I mean, even though you can tell that even just by walking around Tokyo, when you're a foreigner, you kind of stand out. Like whether it be like the color of your hair to just your facial features, they'll kind of notice that you don't
Definitely.
look very Nihonjin rashi, like not very typical Japanese.
How is it for you? I mean, you are kind of Japanese looking since you're half.
Well, I mean,
The audience, the listeners can't really see that, but
how do I describe
You can
my
tell.
facial features on a podcast?
it's fine. You don't have to do that.
I
but
mean,
we
like-
can say that you definitely look half. So you look half American, half Japanese.
I think the one thing, some things that stand out for me is maybe the color of my hair and my height, and I guess the shape of my eyes a little bit.
shape
I
of
would
your
s-
eyes. Little.
It's a
bit
little. I mean, it's a little
something
bit.
between American and
Yeah.
Japanese, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit. Sorry for being offensive. Wider than a typical Japanese person. Yeah.
It's not offensive. It's true. I mean,
So I guess people tend to notice that. I mean, when I first introduce myself to people, I typically ask them like, "What do you think? What nationality do you think I am?" And they're telling me like, "You look very mixed." And then, I mean,
put in the blender and then.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they think I look European or Caucasian, and then I look and a little bit of an Asian mix. They're just not sure which Asian country I'm from.
So you would say that because of the overwhelming majority in Japan, I think that Japanese people still tend to see foreigners as sort of a new thing, kind of an abstract thing in their society.
Not necessarily a new thing. It's more just like there's not many foreigners living in Japan yet, so we still just kind of tend to stick out from the group,
Or they
I
just
mean,
don't get to interact with us that much.
maybe, yeah, but like, I mean, foreigners have been in Japan for like, I don't know, 30, 40 years already, and it's still like, we just stand out. I don't think it's like a new thing for them to get used to. It's just, we just stand out.
We just stand out. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting to think what kind of foreigners would want to come and live in Japan. For those of you who don't know, Japan is still pretty Japanese-centric in that when you walk around the city, even as a foreigner, you would have to go to the really expensive and posh places to find any English support in general,
Right.
which is quite
Except
interesting.
in Tokyo, maybe, but yeah. It's true though that even you can just walk into a bank, and of course an international bank you would say, hey, they have an English speaker, but sometimes they don't. Of course, here in our group we don't have such a language barrier because we know Japanese quite well, I would say. But yeah, I know that many people are struggling, especially when I see foreigners on the street, and most of them are tourists, I would say. They're struggling to speak in English or in Japanese. They don't know any Japanese in general, but in English, it's even difficult to get around here in Tokyo.
It's
which is
funny.
weird.
Like, it's funny when a few of my friends from Guam came to visit me last year around July, and I basically showed them around Akihabara, right? And we found like this souvenir shop where they were selling like these types of anime-based keychains and souvenirs like that, whatnot. And then my friend found something that he liked, and he went to the cashier. And it was just so weird because like he suddenly started asking questions in English. I have no idea why he would ask these questions, right? I don't know. He was kind of like asking them to talk about like what can this product do or what does it look like. And I was just the cashier was obviously Japanese, and her level of English was very basic. So, I mean, obviously, Akihabara has a lot of foreigners coming in and going, I would say.
Clearly, because it's like the anime and gaming metropolis of Japan.
Yeah, I mean, even Akihabara, there's still people who struggle to translate or to explain things to foreigners. I mean, albeit my friend was it's kind of his fault because he was asking all these kind of weird questions.
Well, wouldn't that be a normal reaction for tourists going abroad, though? Let's say you are going to like Spain or Italy, you would use English first, right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. But that is, so why would not be the case in Japan?
No, but it was more like the case of my friend kind of
Asking
it was
weird
Asking
questions.
some very specific questions.
Yes, I mean, if you go to a country where English is not their first language, you would kind of try and simplify what you want to say
Exactly.
Right,
as much as
yeah.
you can, right? But I don't know.
I guess well, what Ichi said or mentioned is it's surely true that it doesn't matter where you go, English is the universal language.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, why Japanese people, I'm sorry, not Japanese people, why foreigners would come rather to Japan sometimes, some of them, instead of going to other countries. And like Buzz mentioned, of course, or like Jess as well, Akihabara with anime and manga, but I also think since Akihabara is one of the most how do you say it, like the
Technologically advanced.
yeah, I guess you can say that, but like it has the most of the tech stores in Tokyo, that a lot of people are just amazed by the technology advancement or the development of Japan.
Definitely,
like
yeah.
everybody thinks, at least who hasn't been to Japan or hasn't read a lot about Japan, Japan is the most advanced country with technology. And I mean, of course, it's true that
Is it still?
that's
Or is that Korea
Yeah,
now?
that's what I would like to come to actually to that point. So Japan has a lot of robots, and they have all these weird toilet seats, as you guys know. I mean, you can't
Yeah.
find that anywhere else in the world. And it looks on the outside that they have a lot of technology, which is unusual in other countries, and it's very uncommon to find. So you think Japan must be the only country with that kind of technology. But behind that is actually a country which is still not as developed as the other industrialized countries in the world. I would say.
Yeah. There's so much to talk about that subject that it can be a whole episode in itself.
It's
actually.
it's gonna be, but I just want to point out that I guess technology is a huge part, because in case of purchasing like technology, let it be cameras. For me, I'm very curious about cameras since I'm into photography. I know that Japan has a lot to offer, especially used stuff, and not only analog, like cameras from like 20 to 30 years ago, or even older than that. You also new things and new kind of technologies you won't find in other countries as cheap. You will find them here in Japan. So I guess technology is definitely a part why foreigners come here to Japan.
Yeah, I buy all my gear secondhand.
That would be one reason why a foreigner would come to Japan. Another one would be, I think, recently especially, is that more and more foreigners from perhaps not core countries, but perhaps, third world, are usually find themselves coming to Japan for work. And I think more and more of those people are on the rise. You can definitely see it in this university. A lot of people from countries such as Nepal or Uzbekistan or Vietnam. They find themselves coming to Japan because the job opportunity is quite high, especially for a foreigner. I see that Japan is, slowly but starting to try and open its doors to foreigners in the work industry.
You mean really slowly?
Very, very
Okay,
slowly.
But
it's a
Ichi,
rough start.
Ichi,
but
isn't
yeah.
that the reason why you came to Japan? Because of the working visa? You are from this third developed country, aren't you? No, I'm just joking, man. I'm just joking.
So when you are talking about like work, are you talking more like like non-skilled labor, like part-time jobs, or more like office jobs?
Well, I think that still the main corporate office jobs are quite exclusive to the Japanese population, but I think smaller, part-time jobs perhaps are starting to be filled up by more and more foreigners. That's what I'm seeing. And when I speak to some of those people, the most common answer they give to me as to why they're here is because they need to support their families, and Japan was the best option for them. So I find that really interesting, considering, they have so many places to go to, but they pick Japan.
I mean, it makes sense because it's, first of all, I would say it's just an impression. I think it's easier to come to Japan and get a visa, first of all. And second of all, it just promises you much more money because the currency is so strong in Asia compared to the other currencies in China or maybe Korea's currency is quite strong. I'm not sure actually how it is with the Japanese currency.
That could be the case. But also you have to consider the fact that you need to learn a completely new language.
True.
Most of those people probably know some level of English. So, which is why it's quite interesting to think, why wouldn't they go to an English-speaking country? Right?
Well, it's also about proximity. I mean, Japan is like one of the few developed country in Asia. I mean, you can go to China, but you would be competing with laborers over there. You could
That
go to
makes sense.
South Korea, but South Korea is arguably stricter when it comes to immigration policy
it's
than
stricter,
Japan.
that's why.
And Japan is closer to most people's home countries,
Yeah,
right?
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. And Japan has a good working, the working conditions are great. And I would say those people who come here to work, they're very smart. They study that Japanese within just a short time and they're able to speak afterwards. I mean,
They really do. It's amazing.
right. Yeah. For me, it took like now 3 years and I still don't have any kind of advanced or like consistent level of Japanese. And it's just frustrating. But those guys, they come here and they try so hard just for their families, and then
Yeah, but
Just
you're also studying in a university. You have to focus on your major as well.
but they work.
Not to mention, we
Yeah.
study in English. Meanwhile, they're
Right.
putting themselves in the zone. They're surrounded with no one but Japanese people,
Yeah.
speaking Japanese.
I mean, think about it. When they work, they have to work with Japanese people.
I know
mean,
it's true.
That encourages them to use their language skills.
I just wanted to mention that. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds so negative how we said it, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands out there.
Just you are also working with Japanese people right now.
Yeah, I'm
That's
working with
definitely
them.
help with your Japanese. Right?
Oh, definitely. Like I definitely learned some casual conversations. I learned how to speak casually to Japanese people more. I learned how to use more slang. Like, if you learn the language straight from the textbook, obviously it's going to sound weird in many situations. You need to be able to convey what you want to say in a way that people are used to, especially in a language that's not your own.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah.
That's definitely something. Not to cut this conversation off, but I think we're going a little bit ahead of schedule.
Yeah, I would say we have a good timing right now, right?
We have
Don't
a good
we?
time right now, but let's try and wrap it up early this episode. We
Let's
don't want
wrap it
to
up.
get too overboard on this.
So
We can't
what
spoil
can
our...
the audience look forward to in the next episodes? This one was just a general introduction about us and about the general reasons why you would come to Japan.
And some small talk, right?
Small talk in general. But I think the next few episodes are going to be more focused on specific subjects, perhaps with something to do with politics or education or society in general.
Exactly.
Something that relates to Japan.
Yeah.
So I think I'm very excited for the coming weeks where we're going to be
Everybody
talking
is.
about that. Have a lot to talk about Japan. There's just so much interesting facts that I learned this year in my classes about Japan, and I think that the audience would find out a lot of information about Japan on this podcast that they perhaps never even considered about or even thought that Japan was even capable of doing so.
Exactly. So all in all, I think we had a good first episode, and we are looking forward to have you again as our audience. You can look forward, as Bas said, to more focused episodes the next time, and we hope that we help you out to understand the Japanese society a little bit more, and also see the perspective of foreigners living in Japan. We're also gonna have some guests soon, hopefully, in some of the episodes, some guest speakers.
What kind of guest speakers?
That's going to be a secret for our audience so that they will keep listening to us. But no, we're going to have probably some professors, some experts in some specific fields. it's not yet sure which season that's going to be, but we will definitely have that scheduled. But we just starting out, and I guess we're going to have more and more debates and discussions about different topics in politics and Japan.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a really fun experience.
What we want to do on this episode is we definitely want to provide something to you, something that you're going to learn. We want you to listen to this podcast every episode and take something new about Japan, something about social issues, whatever it may be. We want to teach you something new. So I hope you come back for the coming episodes. And we're sorry if you were bored out of your mind for this first one.
I think if they're bored out of their mind, they wouldn't listen.
They wouldn't be listening to this
they wouldn't be up to this
No,
point.
they wouldn't listen to this one. Then let's wrap it up. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
And
See you soon.
ごちそうさまでした